Hey guys, it's Justin here. Today we're going to learn about the hot new skill protocol from Anthropic. You've probably heard a lot about this, and it's a brand new way to teach AI exactly how you want it to do its work. The skill protocol is going to make your AI outputs way more deterministic since it provides a set of instructions for AI to follow every single time it does a job. So today we'll learn a little bit more about what is a skill, how to create a skill, and where skills can be applied throughout the Anthropic environment via the API, chat interface, and Claude code. So come on with me, and today we're going to get skillet. All right, so let's take a look at what are skills. I've been getting asked about this a ton from my clients, and I think that skills can actually be a real game changer when we apply them to agents and getting more deterministic outcomes from our AI. So, what is a skill? A skill is basically a set of instructions that you provide to Claude so that Claude understands your standard operating procedure or your service level agreement and actually how you step by step go about your work. Skills can be applied to all kinds of things. So, here's a couple of examples in Anthropic's release blog. You could have an internal comms skill, which contains all of your rules for internal comms at your company, as well as a company nomenclature, things like that. You could have a thesaurus of terms for your company to let your AI assistant understand exactly what all of your acronyms might mean. You can have a canvas design skill. You can even have skills for creating skills. How meta is that? But probably necessary. So what actually is a skill and how is it created? So a skill is quite simply just a markdown file, a MD file, and it is a set of plain text instructions for the AI model to follow whenever it's doing a particular task. Now, we just covered several different examples of skills, but they are nested actually within a file structure where you have a zip folder containing all the different aspects of any one skill, which could be comprised of multiple sets of instructions, multiple markdown files that include things like data analysis instructions. It could include things like, rules for a brand guide or a style guide for your company, including what font you use, what size the H1s are supposed to be when you're coding a web page. How do you hyperlink to other sites when you want to cite their work within your work? And all of those complex instructions could be part of your skill. Skills can be nested, as I already said. So you could have a skill with, a PDF creator, a web page creator, a code execution tool like Python or something like that, where the skill is actually going to be coding for you. And so these skills can be quite powerful. They can enable many tools. They can enable specific instructions, and they can reduce drift and, outcomes that you may not want. So think about when you're using an AI agent, and every now and then you get an output from the agent that might be 15%, 10% different than the last output. Well, skills are a way for you to reduce that drift from output to output by quite a bit with regards to formatting and following basic rules for creating that output. So now that we understand a little bit more about skills themselves, let's look at how we can deploy skills and where they can be applied throughout the Anthropic AI environment. All right, guys, that we know a little bit more about what skills are, we're going to go ahead and create our first simple skill with the help of Claude. So my recommendation is whenever you're trying to create a skill, start with Claude and let Claude know the outcome of your work and your conversation is going to be to create a skill to be used later on. This is a great starting point. Claude already comes preloaded with a skill for creating skills, so it will likely invoke that for this work, and it's going to save you a lot of time. So I've gone ahead and prompted Claude that we really like the way that Anthropic does their user documentation, and we want to mirror that style in our own user documentation in the future for our company. So we're going to create a skill to help us do that. So let's go ahead and see what Claude can help us come up with. All right, guys, welcome back. And I am happy to say that our skill has been prepared. It took quite a while, so I had to break the video there, probably about 10 minutes for Claude to fully document all of the Claude user documentation templates. So that took quite a while. However, once we were done, it put everything into a really awesome Anthropic Docs writer skills zip file for us so that we could just simply download this zip file and start using it immediately. So let's go ahead and click download, and we should have our file. Double click on that. Inside the zip folder, you'll notice the folder structure that we mentioned before. This nesting is how you're going to develop custom skills in the future. So the first folder in here will have everything that's nested. So within the nesting, we have a couple of examples of how to do an article, a Claude documentation article on API documentation, a quick start guide. Those examples are really important for AI to see what the final output looks like if it follows the instructions correctly. So you want to make sure that that is being included. If you want to investigate what that looks like, feel free to click through and actually look through the example. Make sure that it's, exactly as you would expect it to be. This looks pretty good. It's a markdown file, so it's pretty simple in terms of the text output. However, you could have examples of HTML code. You could have examples of other code that's to be developed by your skill. This is just a simple content generation skill. So within the Anthropic Docs Writer skill, outside of the examples folder, a level up, you'll see the Anthropic Docs Style Guide MD. This is another nested folder or a nested doc that has been developed to document the style guide for creating this kind of content. If we open this up, we will see again, okay, this is exactly how they style everything from body text fonts, primary heading font, where to use it in the H1s, H2s, H3s, paragraphs, list descriptions, fallback fonts. If this the Tiempos font doesn't exist. And then you can see a lot of other rules in here for typography scale, line height, letter spacing. It's a pretty comprehensive design document that would take you quite a bit of time to develop on your own. So I'm actually quite happy that Anthropic did this within 10 minutes. Way to go, Claude. You'll notice a README file. It's included this README file, which is basically a quick start guide for this skill to get up and running. What is this skill? What's inside the tool? Where can it find things like the examples or the style guide? How is it to be used? When is it to be used, right? All of that good stuff. And then finally, you'll see the skill.md file itself. This is the actual skill that has been created. All of these other things you can think of as supporting documents for the skill itself. So let's go ahead and open up the skill and notice a couple of really important things right off the bat. So you'll notice right at the top of the skill, this is critical. There is a formatted skill name, skill description that is mandatory to be at the head of your skill.md file within this YAML format. YAML format is basically you need 3 dashes, the name formatted this way, the description formatted this way, and then 3 dashes. This is the name of the skill that will show up when you upload it to your Claude console or to your Claude API. You're going to need to remember this because when you want to invoke it in the future, you'll need to remember the skill name. You'll certainly need to remember the skill name with your API when you want your API to use the skill for whatever it's working on. So this will be critical. Make sure you name it something distinct. That's a tip that Anthropic gives as well. You want to be able to find it pretty easily so that you're not hunting around trying to figure out what you named that skill and where it might be located. So just a power tip there. Do not forget about this. If you forget about this and you try to upload your skill without this YAML formatting, you will get an error message that you need to format your skill and you're going to have to go back, update the markdown file, resave it, and then try to re-upload it. Trust me, I went through this cycle viciously. The first day skills came out for like 2 or 3 cycles trying to uh, get the formatting just right. So it's let me save you some time. Make sure you pay attention to this, get this right the first time. Hopefully, Claude will get it right for you. All right. So now that we've seen our skill file, what it looks like, let's go ahead and try to upload this skill to Claude and add it to our skills repository. So once you're ready to upload that skill, you're just going to click on your settings within your Claude settings. And skills are only available to paid Claude users right now. So you're going to need to be on a paid plan in order to leverage skills. If you're not, another reason why you want to get on the Claude paid plan. But you're going to go through your settings down to your capabilities section, click on capabilities. If you haven't been in this section of your settings before, you're going to need to turn on your code execution and file creation. If that is not already on, you're going to need to turn that on. Skills can't be used unless that's turned on. I highly suggest turning on memory to allow Claude to remember conversations while we're here. It's just a good thing to add. Once you come down to this section for skills, you'll notice that there's a little upload skills button over here. Click on the upload skills button, and you're going to be prompted to drag and drop your skill into your folder. So let me go ahead and get to my drag and drop and drag my skill over. All right, so we're going to see here that we've got an error because our skill contains the word Anthropic. Obviously, they've tagged this to be something that can't be used because they probably reserve this in case they want to add skills with the word Anthropic in it in the future. So let's go ahead and fix that really quick. I'm going to rename my skills. Give me 1 second and I will be right back. Right, guys, we're back. Detour there to remove the word Anthropic from our skill name, which is a no-no. We just learned today. So don't make the same mistake I did. Don't name your skill with the word Anthropic in it. All right, now I replace the word Anthropic with user, and so my skill name will now be user docs writer, and boom, there you go. Skill uploaded successfully. User docs writer is now in our skill library. If you've done this successfully, you'll see your skill here. You'll see it toggled on. If you want to remove a skill because you want to update it in the future, provide new instructions, super simple. Click the 3 buttons and delete it. If you want to give this skill a try now, you can click on it. Hey, Claude, I just added the user docs writer skill. Can you make something amazing with it? And then give it a spin, right? Let Claude start using that skill, give it a test. This is a great way to perform what they call evaluations, or evals for short. Evaluate some outputs manually, just see, is it doing what you intended for it to do? And if so, then maybe you might want to try with a couple of live use cases with your skill. If those go well, then you can then consider moving over to maybe a scaled production instance of your skill, where we might be leveraging the skill in an API to generate artifacts on the fly, generate content, generate web pages with that higher degree of certainty about how our outcomes are going to look. All right, so it is off and running. We're testing our skill. I would, evaluate this myself after it gets done doing whatever it's doing and make sure that it's, performing the way that we intended for it to perform. If it's not, this is an opportunity to upload your skill file here and have Claude help you troubleshoot why the output may not look the way you want it to. There's quite a bit of information in our skill, quite a bit of context. It may be that something is misaligned in there and you need to troubleshoot it, but the easiest way to do that is with the help of Claude and with the help of AI. You'll get there a lot faster. All right, now that we're done with our skill upload, skill creation, skill testing, let's take a look at the API as well and see where we might be able to add a skill into our API. So once you come to the API dashboard here, Claude is located at console.anthropic.com/dashboard. You can easily go into your skills list over here on the left. You'll notice that there are already some really awesome skills available in the API. So they have gone ahead and created skills for creating Word docs, for creating PDF docs, for creating PowerPoints, for creating Excel files. These are all super, super awesome skills that come preloaded in your API. You could go ahead and start leveraging these via the API right now without having to do anything extra. But if you want to add a custom skill in here for generating, let's say, a unique piece of content for a user, that fills out a form on your website, that then the API goes off, develops that piece of content based on that user's information and what it is they've provided to you. That would be a great example of using a custom skill via the API. Very similar to developing and uploading your skills to the console. You just click add a skill and you can drag and drop a zip file here, just like we did within the console. So let's give it a shot. All right, so you'll see here that it was just as simple as it was in the chat. We went ahead and put our zip file right in there. It loaded the zip file, no problem. Skill is ready to use. And now you'll be able to use our new user doc creation skill with our API. And if you think of a use case for this, it's pretty obvious. If you were to get a user request for more information from your help portal, you could then allow the AI to identify this as like a critical request that other users may also need documentation for. AI could then pass that documentation off to the Anthropic API that could leverage your user docs writer skill to write that knowledge base article or user documentation. And then it could pass it off to yet another AI that could use, let's say, your Webflow MCP server or your Wix NPC server to then draft that user documentation, push it to your CMS and Webflow, and voila, push your help article live, maybe with one or two human in the loop review steps just to make sure that the content is good. But this would then trigger, let's say a notification to that user that had requested this documentation. It could log that new article in your release notes for your next release notes session. And you could have an entire end-to-end system working beautifully to help you update your user documentation, all in an automated way with a few human in the loop review steps along the way for quality check and to reduce any hallucinations or anything like that. If you guys are curious about learning how to create workflows like that or a knowledge-based system, content generation system, feel free to leave me a comment in the comments for this video. I'll look at developing steps towards those systems in future videos so that you guys can build these on your own. Or if you don't want to wait, feel free to ping me online. We can set up a call and I can help you with that job to be done. As always, guys, have a great day. Let me know if you like this video. Appreciate the support.